Relax. We're not doing anything crazy. This episode is going to be airing on my birthday.
Oh,
So we're going to take a walk down memory lane
oh, that's good. I like this.
of last year when I came down to visit you in Maryland.
Oh,
And
yeah. Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
really, we started this journey of no permission necessary. No permission necessary was born a year ago.
On your
Really.
birthday?
No, I wouldn't say on my birthday exactly, but
Yeah.
in March,
Yeah.
we like actually put the idea into action.
We did. You know, I was actually thinking about this a couple weeks ago when you talked about this podcast and, thinking about what it was like even curating what the podcast was going to be. And everybody had so many questions and they had their opinions about the name and what the content was and who we were going to interview. And I think my biggest takeaway has been we kind of just winged it. Like, there was planning, okay? There was
But it's not
planning.
like us. It's not like us to do that.
And if it weren't for you, honestly, we would, who knows where we would be on any given record day, okay? Because I feel like there was this, I think what needed to happen was we needed to have the experience. We needed to suss out what we felt comfortable talking about, what we didn't, what landed, what didn't. And it's still a ever breathing organism. Like it's still moving and grooving and changing. And I really think that this year has been us getting familiar in unfamiliar territory, getting comfortable in the discomfort, and getting clear on how we speak the English language.
I mean, I'll keep it real though. How I speak the English language here is much different than maybe in other places, right?
But just simple articulation, being
Oh,
able to
it's
draw
been
back what words we say repetitively. It's been a journey. And you really do have to critique yourself and say, and listen to it back.
and
How many
listen to it.
people, this is for my 12-step people, right? How many people in support groups have been either recorded or have heard a speaker tape of yourself or someone else? And what happens is that you have this anxiety about listening to yourself. I remember people saying like, did you listen to your speaker tape? I'm like, no, that sounds horrible. Why would I listen to myself speak? But what really needed to happen was I needed to understand where my blind spots were and where my gaps were. And so that was a big part of the podcast process. Just simply
Well,
knowing how to articulate myself in a way that made sense.
I mean, if you're not in the 12-step community, just listening to a voicemail that you have left can be completely cringeworthy. So,
Totally.
I
Totally.
mean, just listening to yourself in general, it's like
Yeah.
there's something about hearing your voice that is just, I will say though,
Why is that
I
though?
I don't know. I think it's something about like we hear it differently as we're speaking. So then when we
Hmm.
hear it outside of ourselves played back, I do think it sounds different.
Yeah.
I could just remember us though all throwing like the names out there. Choosing a name was hard, but I am glad there was one name about something unbothered. And
Unbothered.
I will tell you, this year has shown me I am bothered about a lot of things actually. So that name would not have gone well.
What was it? It was something unbothered. It was, I'd have to go back in the archives to find it.
I don't know.
And it was on our way to see,
Sebastian Maniscalco.
yes, who, if no one has seen him live, Jill really got us turned on to him and listening to him and seeing his comedy shows just on TV. But seeing him live was so hilarious. And
He
that
was
was when we
hilarious.
started, that's when we started looking at the names, was that weekend. Yeah.
I also think that it's been really good for both of us. And granted, you've kind of had double this because you also started, yes, around the same time. So I feel like you've done
Mhm.
double duty of things that have maybe been uncomfortable, but even that is more comfortable than this. Like for us, the podcast has really forced us to get uncomfortable in not knowing how to do something, which I'll be honest with I haven't been there, like, yeah, little things here or there, but this was on a bigger scale.
Well, that
This
goes back to
felt
being the master of your art, and having to step into something that's new is highly uncomfortable. I mean, that was really, talk about the best comparison I have of that outside of the podcast was having children, right?
yeah.
getting pregnant, the powerlessness over being pregnant, what happens to your body, what happens with your child, their growth, their all the things. And when we started the podcast, it was a similar experience. It was like, I'm powerless over what happens here. The only thing I have control over is my own actions to be able to put out things that I think are relatable, that are exciting, that are comical at times, that are vulnerable at times. And whether or not it takes or doesn't, the idea is that we stepped into a process that felt uncomfortable and growth worthy for us. It wasn't necessarily the listeners. And I think in the beginning, that was really hard because in the beginning, you're like, okay, are people listening to it? Do people like it? Do people not like it? And now this opportunity that has really come out of it and been born out of the process is this is my ability to turn off the grind. This has just been my experience, and this wasn't what I thought would come out of it. I turn off the grind. I'm present. I'm not on technology. I'm literally, I'm on technology in terms of just being able to do this over a video, but I'm fully present for honest, raw conversations with people I may or may not know. And that in and of itself has really created other moments of connection like that in my life outside the podcast.
Yeah, for me, it's evolved into something that one, I didn't know I was going to like it as much as I do. I was like, all right, we're going to do this thing and
And maybe we'll make
maybe
it.
maybe we'll monetize it, maybe people will like us, maybe like we didn't really have an end goal. It was like this is just where we've been led. The podcast keeps coming up. We're going to make the podcast. We put the structure around it. And yeah, some weeks are messy. Today, we're just winging it. And honestly, I think we do best with that sometimes because we're not overly prepared and it's just real raw what's going on. Some weeks we feel stressed probably over it because our schedules are just tight, but it does allow us to no, this is a commitment we've made. We're both really good at keeping the commitment to something. We made this commitment. This is where we are. We've held each other accountable. And it is really nice at the end of the week to just reflect. And honestly, what's come of it for me is how many people we don't know who's listening. Just so
Right.
you all know, like, unless you tell us or you send us a review or you text us or email us or get in touch with us somehow, we don't know who's listening or what impact we are having. It has been so nice to hear the impact that we've had on people and their businesses, their ability to try something different, to implement something in their business, to, take the leap doing something. It's been
Mhm.
really cool. And I think impact has been a word that's been on my mind for a while now in terms of we talk about legacy, impact.
The ripple effect.
If you're not here any longer, right? I mean, this happens in the recovery space a lot where somebody's either heard me speak or they've known me from years ago and they loop back around and, oh, I remember you saying this thing. And I don't remember saying it, but it sticks with somebody else. And I think this is just another way to have impact on a larger scale than we're able to in the forums we currently have ability to have impact on.
Yeah. And thinking about legacy is something that I was just talking to my mom's visiting, and we were just talking about legacy. And she was talking about age discrepancy and how when she started having children, she was much younger than me. Therefore, my grandmother was younger as we grew older, et cetera, et cetera. And she was just talking about how she has like this immense sadness because there's a potential like she won't be there for my kids' weddings and things of that nature, because of the age difference, right? Kids are being born later in life. And I was sitting there thinking about the relationships that are built based on what you have available at this present time, and how when you start to get a bit older, you do start to kind of say, like, where is my footprint? Where am I creating helpful impact, sustainable family dynamics, like a sustainable grounding source of energy? I don't know, if that makes sense. And so that has really been what the podcast has also offered me, is to reflect back and be quiet in those moments and say, oh my God, that's a real thing, right? That there's some of these fears that people walk around with. And especially as women, right? Predominantly our listener base is women, and predominantly the people that we interview are women. So when my mom's sitting there telling me, like, these are some of the things she's thinking about, even those conversations help me to say, okay, Do other women think about that? Probably. Do other, grandparents grapple with that? Likely. What has it looked like to go from all these different transitions? Because my mom just recently retired. So going from being a stay-at-home mom, then going into a working career, then going into retirement, right? Like watching all these shifts take place. And so a lot of what we've been able to experience on the podcast is women and men, but have really talked about what these transitions look like in life. And really what that's offering us is the ability to be more prepared, be more aware, be more knowledgeable. I don't know.
Well, you know what
So
just
it
came
just
up?
felt like
When
very full circle when my mom was sharing that this morning on our way to get coffee.
Well, when you just said that, I thought of it just allows us to not feel alone. I
Mm,
mean, we have been, doing some work together with various clients, and I think a lot of the message is providing hope to people that you're not alone. You're not the only one that's felt this way. This is how we
mhm,
got through it when we felt that way. I mean,
right,
I think alone is a lie, and a lot of times the fears that we have and the shame that we carry are because we feel that we are the only ones that's ever experienced this thing.
right.
It could be, staff leaving your business. It could be children screaming in the background in inappropriate places.
Did you just hear Madden? She has a screech like no tomorrow. Okay.
That's only going to get worse. That's only going to get worse as she gets older.
I am like, whoa, how does that little voice come out of that little body? So cute.
Ultimately allowing people to hear, and that's where social media and podcasting and all these various ways that we can consume information can be useful.
Hmm.
It can be a really positive thing if it's used in the right way, of people saying, okay, I'm listening to other people's stories and experiences and realizing, not in comparison, but I am recognizing that I actually have a lot of things that are the same and I feel the same way.
Right.
And so it's like learning from other people's experiences. That's why I love reading autobiographies. I love learning more about other people's lives, because you look at really successful people, at least I do. I love, and you're like, "Oh, their life's not like that different than mine. They had struggle. They had things they had to overcome." I think sometimes we get into this mindset of we're so different, like no wonder we could never be like them. When really w there's like a sense of a level playing field, I think, when we put all our stuff out on the table and we can be honest about it.
So if there was one way that you felt like we could be more impactful on the podcast, and obviously this is an opportunity for listeners to comment and send in their thoughts. But when you reflect on the podcast, where's one area where we feel like we could be more impactful?
I think we started to do this transition a little bit more, where just dialing down some more bite-sized pieces of like tangible takeaways that can be implemented in people's lives. We have started recording shorter episodes that, if you think about a working parent or a busy entrepreneur, like 10-20 minutes is you have those spaces of time. So I think drilling it down to, hey, this is where we struggled, this was the solution, this is how we put it into place. I think being a little bit more directed in that way is good
Mhm.
for us, but it's also good for the listener, because our interviews are long. It's more of, again, learning more about people's stories and experience, but we do have those moments where it could just be a bite size. I listen to a podcast sometimes and it's 6 minutes in and I'm like, that's all I needed to hear today. Like, sometimes
Right.
I have to stop it there. It's like, nope, that's the message I needed, and I need to go with that for today.
Well, I think that's also impactful for people who are listening because if you're anything like me, I feel like I have to do things to completion. Okay. So this is why the podcast has worked well, because once we spoke it into existence, like it was not even, there was no even thought like, oh, I could not go through with this. I don't have that. It just doesn't exist in my brain.
No, we
And
must
so,
we must proceed now. We are now doing this thing. Our husbands were like, "Oh god, they're definitely doing it now."
right, exactly, because I can't. It's like once it's written, you know? So even when you think about how I schedule things, the consistency, yes, I'm historically a few minutes late to every recording day, but I'm still here. Okay. And so one of the ways I've really figured out how to pause and take away whatever's in front of me is similar to that with a podcast, like listening only to the first 20 minutes and be like, okay, I can pick it up back up later. Or that was enough for me and I can move on. And I think a lot of people they don't really know, they think they need to listen to podcasts in the right way. Like, I can't tell you how many people that I've come across that are like, I never listened to podcasts. And then I started listening to yours. And I think not because we're anything special, but more so because they wanted to
We
support
are.
me,
We
because they
are.
wanted to support us and be like, yeah, we're listening to your podcast. And they knew I was going to ask follow-up questions to the episodes. But through that process, they have said, yes, it's like tangible bite-sized pieces and we can work with it, and, it helps us and, motivates us, whatever. But I think one of the ways that I would like the podcast to evolve, there's a lot of things that I want to manifest with the podcast. And some of those things we talk
Same.
about offline, but some of the things that I feel comfortable putting out right now would just be maybe sharing a little bit more intimately about some of the face down moments. I think that it's easy to talk about a little bit more at surface level, especially when it's in the rear view from years and years prior. But I think there are ways that we can bring a little bit more vulnerability to the surface. And so I feel like I feel confident that that can take place and it can be more relatable
This
for
is
people.
Molly. This is Molly speaking after integration, after an intensive.
Yeah.
So
I
she
just
just
got back
feels
from my
really more,
intensive.
she's spiritually fit right
Cheers.
now. She's really feeling solid in saying that. So we'll bring up this recording at a future date when I ask her to be vulnerable when we're recording live. But yes, I agree. We are definitely, I almost feel like it's just the beginning with this. That's just how I
Totally.
feel. We're like a year in, we figured out how to kind of do this. I wouldn't even say I'm confident or competent in podcasting, but we know some things at this point.
I'm not sure Jill even has a mic right now.
I don't have a mic right now. I broke my mic. So I have a mic, but it's broken. Don't ask how. I actually do know how. I'm not going to say it, but it's broken is the bottom line. Doesn't matter how. So have I ordered a new one? I have not.
No,
And we're still thriving.
you sound great, honestly.
I think it's okay. I might even sound better on on my AirPods.
You might.
Which by the way, shout out to Logan Airport because I certainly did leave these AirPods in the Logan Airport prior to going on vacation, and by some sort of miracle, they got shipped back to me. So,
That is a true miracle, honestly.
I mean, it is par for the course that I left them behind. As soon as I got up in the air on that plane, I go, oh, well, left those behind. Yep, those are long gone. But as soon as we landed, I checked my Find My. I'm like, you got to be shitting me. They're still in the airport. I'm definitely getting these back now. I had faith then. My faith was restored. And I did. I got them back. I had to fill
You
out a
did,
form.
but they had been returned. Thank
Which honestly, for my ADHD and my forgetfulness, and I love to lose things or leave things behind, it's really not good reinforcement. It's probably a negative reinforcement, like, oh, I'll get it back. I don't really need to pay that much attention.
it always comes back.
It always comes back. And if it's not, it wasn't meant for me, honestly. But just to wrap this little episode up, I was going to say that those little bite-sized pieces and those takeaways, you really have to have an open mind. And I think this whole process we have been open-minded to fail, to not know what we're doing, to ask for help, to listen to other people's direction, even when it's hard to hear about. I know we've had some feedback from listeners and friends and family members like, hey, I don't like this. You sounded weird here, whatever. The things
Yeah.
that we repeat over and over. It's just uncomfortable to hear that feedback. But I will say that some of the most profound, even like things that people have said to me have been strangers in a grocery store or people that I've never seen again, or
Mhm.
that one person, you know, in a meeting or whatever. Just, I don't need to. Sometimes those profound moments, they only occur if we're open minded enough to receive it. And, that's to me what happens sometimes when I turn on and listen to people from all different backgrounds that don't even have to do anything with me.
So I'm thinking about what would be useful for people for a permission slip. And I would say that what felt very aligned with what you just shared was permission to make a positive ripple, to make a positive change, to put some good freaking news into the world, guys. Okay. So
Yeah. We all need that.
permission to sprinkle some kindness, permission to just make an impact. Let's start making some positive impacts out here. Okay. The world needs it. We
And you
need
can
you.
start today by leaving us a positive review on
That was good.
Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Leave us a comment, give us a shout out, share our page. It is really helpful to us if you do that. And we will see you next time.
Bye.